economically and politically. Economically, we're going to have 1 million jobs leave our state this decade. We have 15% unemployment, just under 29% in Detroit. In addition to that, a family is moving out every 12 minutes. Truly frightening statistics. And then you add to the fact we're broken politically. Our government's broken, our political process is broken. For the second time in 3 years, we shut down our government over budget issues. We have people in fundamental disagreement. And all of that's wrong. I like to ask people the question to say, if Lansing was a business, we would have fired these people. We deserve a better answer. But I'm not here to complain. I'm here to talk about the solution. And I want to propose a solution to you that will sound very familiar. The solution I'm going to propose is what you do when you started up your business. It's the same model. And there are 3 key steps. You need a vision. You need a plan. And you need to take real, tangible action and be awesome at execution and getting things done. And that's what I'm going to walk through. And then I'm going to present some challenges to you as we go through this talk. First of all, the vision. I call it going to the era of innovation. We need to transition Michigan from the industrial era to an all-new era, the era of innovation. And what's that all about? What's it composed of? There are 3 key elements. First of all, there's an economic pillar that talks about a globally diverse economy offering increasing prosperity to our families. There's a quality of life pillar that talks about protecting and enhancing our natural resources. It's going to be more and more challenging as we go into the future. And we need to market these better. I like to joke, Minnesota gets away with 10,000 lakes. We have 11,000 lakes. We got to get proud of these things. But secondly, we need to restore our central cities, the topic people don't like to talk about. We need to make Detroit a great city. We need to reinvent Flint and places like that around the state. For Michigan to be a great state, we need great core cities. The third piece is a topic that comes up virtually every time I talk to people. It's about our youth. Our youth is leaving the state at an alarming rate, particularly the most educated. And we need to create an environment where not only they want to stay, but can stay and have an exciting career. If you take these things all together, you have this new era. I also have another name for it, though. I call it Michigan 3.0. So all the IT people should like that. And why do I call it Michigan 3.0? Well, I think it's really important to reinforce the fact we have invented and reinvented Michigan in the past in a fabulous fashion. So we have a track record of doing that, and we just need to do it again. To share the history with you briefly, what was Michigan 1.0? That was the 1800s, when Michigan became a state and such. We helped lead the nation in things like fur, timber, mining. Very few of you may know this. The country's first multimillionaire was back in the 1800s, and they were from Michigan. John Jacob Astor with the fur trade. So Bill Gates, eat your heart out. The second era was the 1900s, the industrial era. The interesting part there is we were so successful that I argue we created the American middle class with the success in Michigan of the industrial era. And it actually had 2 parts in the early phases. We had 2 successive generations of fabulous innovators. First, we had the technical innovators, the Henry Ford, the Dodges, the engineers. There was a second generation, though, that most people don't talk about or recognize. And that was the management innovators, the Alfred Sloans, the people like that built the modern corporation here in this state. So when people talk about the success of the last century, and I say, what was the entrepreneurial center of the United States? I would argue it wasn't Silicon Valley. It was actually Detroit in Michigan. Now our problem is we were so successful, we sort of went on autopilot for the second half of that era. We got complacent. We got content. We did not reinvent ourselves. So we've been in gradual decline. So instead of putting Band-Aids on an era that's time to end, let's transition to the era of innovation. So that's step one. Then you need a plan. And it needs to be a plan with concrete, tangible, long-term structural solutions that keep us on that path to that era of innovation and get away with ignoring problems and the Band-Aids that we see today. Now, I've got a 10-point plan, but I'm not going to go through all those. A couple I'm going to mention to you apply across the board, and then I want to talk about entrepreneurs and innovators and special things that we need to set aside from the government perspective to help you. First of all, one thing we really need to do is get the open for business sign out in the state. We need to create a much more competitive environment. We have one of the worst tax and regulatory systems in the country. The Michigan business tax is the stupidest tax in the United States. And it simply needs to go away. So we'll go get that done. Also, though, I like to argue on the regulatory front, we're all messed up. We have a government that perceives the average person as a bad person and needs to be controlled. Now, the presumption should be is the average person is a good, honest person, and there's some exceptions to deal with. Interesting case, if you apply for a permit, you just have to wait until it comes. What should it be? It should be good business, where you apply, there's a reasonable waiting period. If you don't hear back, you get your permit, you run your business, you go. So we need to create that for all businesses across the board. The second thing we need to do across the board is change government from a bureaucracy to a customer service business. A lesson I learned at Gateway. Everything we do in government should be looking at not from the side of government, we're here to help. It should be looking at through your eyes, our customers, our citizens, saying, how can we help you be more successful and get out of your way? And that's the focus we need to bring. The subset of that is we need to change government in terms of budgeting, positioning, describing things. We need to show you value for money. If we do something, we need to show it's a worthwhile return on investment to you, the citizen. Now, those are general things, and I think those are absolutely critical. But I want to talk about 2 or 3 things for the entrepreneurial world. First of all, I think we need to create networks. We need to do this in public-private partnerships, but we need to create better networking opportunities, especially with talent. One of the great successes of Ann Arbor Spark was having a talent division, having people focused on connecting entrepreneurs, innovators, all these people together, and connecting an inefficient labor market. We should have people like that throughout the state and network them across the state. A second thing we should do is I like to describe it as the first customer program.